Like, there's only so much you can do with that, but yet you can make combinations to make letters to then make words. It's like binary, but worse.
No, no, no. All you just hear is, oh no. What is it? X, Y, X, Y, X. I think he's speaking in the PlayStation dialect.
Oh no!
Someone get the Japanese dude in here.
Get the computer guy! The PC player might be able to translate for us. Who doesn't enjoy?
Nintendees.
Alright. Well then, I hope we're up and running, because
Alright,
we're running.
Hello everyone. As our conversation about button mashing and conversations.
Language barriers.
Language barriers that only a gamer could understand.
Barriers.
The White House gets a telegram. Oh no, it's up down circle. What does it mean?
What do we do?
Fucking the best code breakers in the world can't figure it out. Some dude in Tahiti. Oh yeah, that says hello. How do you understand it? It's in PlayStationese, man. You don't speak PlayStation? That's a shame.
Like,
anyways.
You peasant, you don't know PlayStation.
No, I only speak Nintendees. I see.
I
Infidel.
see. I see. A man of the turtle stomper.
Man of the turtle stomper. He comes from the land of pipes and turtles. Why do I feel like that's somehow sexual?
And an over-absorbent amount of shrooms.
Over-absorbent amount of shrooms. Yes. That is the entire reason Super Mario exists, because Mario is in fact just high on shrooms all the fucking time.
Well, no, let's just take a quick second to realize the fact that not only are there Goombas, which are basically mushrooms, but there are also mushrooms that you pick up as power-ups. I'm just saying something doesn't feel right.
He's eating them Goombas, man. The mushrooms he picks up are just Goombas that didn't make it.
Then there's the toads.
They're the Goombas that did make it. It's like the stages of evolution. First you have the Goomba, then you have the mushroom, and you have the mushroom people. Ah, I've cracked the code. Someone get MatPat in here. I've got a new game theory.
I figured it out.
Figured it out. Okay. So, aside from our talk about Mario shrooms and stuff, today is not about Nintendo, contrary to what we might be leading you to believe. Though now I kind of wish it was. Today is about Xbox, so the very opposite of Nintendo. Well, no. PlayStation would be the very opposite of Nintendo. Xbox is just like the weird cousin from Connecticut we don't talk about. Actually, no, that's a Switch. No, that's not the Switch. That's whatever the hell the Wii U was. Anyways, moving on. So,
Yes. Yes.
mad ramblings aside, today we're going to be talking about the long overdue video that I promised us last week, which is Halo Infinite. Yay! Right now they'll be like, beep, fucking confetti going off in the background. I don't know.
Yes.
Note to self: increase the animation budget and get confetti. But so where to begin on Halo Infinite? Well, first off, I should have a disclaimer. Before we did this video, I personally did a little bit of research into what other people are saying about this. Kind of because we're a little late to the party on this one. So I kind of feel bad if we started hyping out, or we started talking about things that other people have kind of covered to hell and back already.
Yeah.
I'd rather not be an echo chamber. Though I probably will in this video, so I don't know, whatever. Minor hypocrisy aside. So we have indeed, or I have indeed, he has also looked over some of them, looked over some videos talking about how people feel about Halo Infinite overall, both the campaign and the multiplayer, to just kind of get a feel of where everyone stands on the game as is. So we can kind of not only talk about our points, but also kind of what they're saying and our opinions on this. Because this is not only a journalist, but a reaction channel. So I guess you could call this a reaction channel, I guess. A little bit.
It's a weird mix thing going on here.
yeah, we've got an interesting and unique perspective, I like to think, on the games industry in terms of what we can cover content-wise. But anyways, disclaimer, another disclaimer on the disclaimer, full of disclaimers in this video. This will not change, or at least this will not change my opinion. Can't guarantee the editor's opinion. Justin number 346 might have his opinion changed. Yes, we're already up to 346. Don't ask what happened to the other 344.
Don't worry about it.
And what about 45? Well, he's still working on a hamster wheel out the back, so he's fine for now.
Yes.
He's still running on like the Justin hamster wheel. Fun fact: the show is all powered by the physical blood and sweat of the Justin
don't
clones.
worry about the 300. Yes, they're totally not just running power. So good for the environment.
Oh yeah, we tried burning coal, but then we got sued by someone. So we decided to switch to hamster power, but the hamsters weren't large enough, so we switched to the next best thing, Justin clones.
Yes.
Which is how we're where we are now. So
yes.
Yay.
We're so environmentally friendly.
Oh yeah, we're so environmentally friendly. Look at them bleeding and sweating over the contraptions. It's so environmentally friendly.
Yes.
Hey, I'm not killing trees, so
right.
I'm technically environmentally friendly. But anyways, so again, our opinions will not change based on these reviews. They're just kind of our ability of seeing where the games industry is standing in terms of Infinite.
Yeah.
The videos we've referenced, or not referenced, I should say, but the videos we've looked over and have skimmed over to some degree as well. All down in the comment section if you want to look at them.
Yes.
They
Multiple
go into far more.
That go into more specifics on some of the certain topics.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a wide variety on what we're doing right now. So
just so you get an idea of where our opinions are. I should say, just so you get an idea of where we kind of saw the information that we're referencing of where the industry stands. There you have it.
Yeah.
Just so you know where we're pulling this information from a little bit. Now, admittedly, there's a lot more videos I could have referenced, but the comments, the description section is only so long. And, it would be kind of an idiotic move of us to kind of link 1,000 different videos, some of which almost contradict each other. So,
well, I mean, that's kind of the whole purpose of a debate. You never know.
Whole purpose of a debate.
So, anyways, let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Halo Infinite.
Halo Infinite. To summarize in general, both my own opinions and the opinions that I've now learned a lot of people have, kind of revolve around this. Halo Infinite campaign, good? Halo Infinite multiplayer, good, but
there's a little bit of a problem.
A little bit of a problem.
A little bit of an aspect that which connects to it.
So, we'll go over that but in a minute. But let's talk about the good things first. Let's start on let's start on the bad points. So I can leave you with a good taste in your mouth and not a bad taste in your mouth. Because there's a lot of good to talk about here. A lot of good to talk about. We'll go over that. In fact, Justin over here is currently playing multiplayer, which is part of that other half of the equation. But, look at the pretty lights and flashing gunplay, so, pretend that's a thing. Anyways. Jokes aside, though, that is actually a very good part of the game. The game itself does play very well. It is a very fun game to play. Gameplay-wise, the loop is very good.
Yeah.
There is never a moment where you're running around shooting things where you're like, I'm bored of mass murdering things. Oh, did I just get us a demonetization? Maybe. Ah, well. Moving on. There's never a moment where you're bored in this, right? It's very fun to play, and the constant gameplay loop of running from one enemy to the next, to the next, to the next is always very satisfying. And the guns sound very good, from what I've been told. I personally believe the guns sound very good as well. Story-wise, it's a very good successor, and before I say anything, we won't be covering spoilers for the story. In fact, we had this conversation before the stream. This is why we're not streaming the gameplay of the single player instead we're streaming the multiplayer, because we don't want to spoil anything just in case. because what people describe as a spoiler is a little up in the air and up for debate. So just to cover our bases, we're like, let's not do it.
Yes. Meanwhile, I am already experiencing moments of lag. How fun.
We sure that's not on your end?
No, I don't know. I hope the stream's doing fine.
I actually should probably. I can. No, actually, I won't watch the stream. I'll just talk into the video feed.
Yeah, you're fine.
But yeah. So the gameplay loop is very satisfying. All in all, the story, it's very nice. It's basically quick synopsis. Master Chief almost gets himself clocked in the head at the beginning of the game, and again, this is not really a spoiler because it's basically in the very beginning of the game. Remember Atriox from Halo Infinite?
Yeah.
Yeah, him and Master Chief had a square off, and Chief lost. Bad.
Yes.
And then has his ass chucked into the void, where he stays for several months until he is reawakened by a pilot who brings him back to life, and then off he goes to fight the Banished, who have now taken over installation. What was it? I can't remember the installation number actually. Zeta Halo. I don't even know if there is an installation number for this one. It's just Zeta Halo. At least I believe this is Zeta Halo. Forgive me, I've played this way back in like November when it first came out, so my memory of the campaign is a little spotty. Forgive me. Though I did play it all the way to completion, so I can talk at most part what the thing is like.
Yeah, what you gonna do?
Yeah. But anyway, at the end of the day, it's basically you taking back the Zeta Halo installation from the Banished, going from place to place to place, tracking down everything, while at the same time trying to find out what exactly happened. Not only to, why the Banished are here, why they want Zeta Halo, what's their overall goals, but also there's this overlooming question of what happened to Cortana.
Yeah.
Remember last game when Cortana kind of declared herself the sovereign ruler of just about everything? Yeah. Now she's gone. And nobody knows where she went.
Yep.
So, again, there's that overall plot point as well of you trying to figure out what exactly happened to Cortana, along with your Cortana 2.0, known as the Weapon. Which, there's a whole interesting backstory revolving around that, but again, I'm not going to cover into anything about that, because that's spoiler territory. So...
Spoilers!
You might be able to... I'll just say you might be able to figure out where it's going if you pay very close attention to certain cues in the story, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So, campaign, gameplay, very good. Very fun to play. Vehicles feel very nice. My only complaint about Zeta Halo in general is kind of one of the things I believe Gaming Bolt mentioned in his, which, now that I think about it, I can kind of agree with, is that Zeta Halo can at times feel very samey.
Yeah.
It's just plains and trees.
Yeah, there's not much environments to it. Like it would be nice if there was like a little bit like of a multiple environment based areas, like as you went to different sections, you could find like a little bit more different areas. Oh, that's nice. So
So the environments do feel a little samey. Don't expect to run into an ice zone anytime, which is unfortunate, but whatever.
Well, I wouldn't expect an ice zone, but it'd be nice to have like something like a bit of a desert area and stuff like that.
Yeah. TLDR, once you've seen a little bit of the ring, you've kind of seen all of it.
Yeah.
But it's not really it's not to say that that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's just kind of a point of the concept. Overall wise, it feels like a very good successor to the Infinite or the Halo story overall. I feel like one of them also said that it's kind of... I can't remember who said it. I can't remember if it was Bricky or also Gaming Bolt. Again, their pieces are down below. But he kind of made a good comparison when he said that, or one of them made a good comparison, when he said that it was or maybe it was ACG. I can't remember. It was one of those three. Again, all those videos are down there, so it's among those three somewhere. But one of them made a point where it is basically like this is kind of like a band-aid to the story that they told in Guardians, with the kind of weirdness that there was going on with, you know, how Cortana was taking over and stuff like that, it kind of feels like a soft reset of that. Kind of reset the board.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do it in a bad way, I feel like. It does feel like it does it very, not terribly, not award-winningly, mind you, but not bad. So it is something I will be satisfied in seeing where the story goes from here. So TLDR, story, very good. Now let's move on to the other point. Wait, didn't I say I was going to leave you with a good taste in your mouth?
Yes.
I lied. I guess well, no, there's more stuff we can cover in the end. I can talk about the multiplayer good parts at the end. So, let's talk about the bad parts of the multiplayer first. Just so I can try and be keeping myself honest here about my point about leaving you with a good taste in your mouth. I don't want to say that and be like, yeah, this is bad, and then just end the video there. So, whatever.
Yeah,
so, good points of them. So, bad points of the multiplayer we'll start off with. I don't know, actually. Do I want to do good points? What do you think? Should we do good points or bad points first?
We gotta get to the points eventually.
I mean, we have an hour, though, at most, so we're fine.
Yeah.
But do we want to say good points or bad points first? What do you think? I will leave it up to your decision.
Let's just get the bad out of the way and go with the good.
Alright then. Bad it is then. So, bad points it is first. Just recited what I just said. Ugh! This is what happens when you don't have a script. It's one of the flaws of having no script. But anyways. So, bad points first. It is kind of a... Actually, there's not many bad points to talk about, truth be told, with the multiplayer. Most overall, the opinion of the multiplayer is that it's fairly decent. It's a pretty robust thing. We'll get into those good points in a bit, like I said, though, but the few bad points that do exist is specifically around the concept of progression and customization. Those will be where those bad points typically are kind of focused. That's where you'll kind of see most of that. I don't want to say hate, because hate feels like a too strong word. It's more of a displeasure with that, and less of an overall hate. You're not going to find anyone raging against the multiplayer. Most people are pretty satisfied with it, like I said. It's more of a, could be better kind of thing. Though, admittedly, Halo Xperia, I keep saying that last bit wrong for him. Xperia does say that this kind of experience in the multiplayer has driven him away from the multiplayer, so, I mean, take it as you will. But specifically on the concept of progression and customization, let's start with progression first. Progression in Halo Infinite multiplayer is quite interesting because you have a list of objectives, kind of like your daily tasks that you get every time you log in.
Yeah.
Now there are only about, what was it? If you have a moment, could you actually look at those for a second? Just so
I'm kind of in the middle of a match, so I don't think I can. I'm not particularly the one to go and leave my team hanging on a situation like this.
That's fair. Focus on the match. Focus on the match. Okay.
And once again, I'm gonna make the point for what it is. I hate the fucking hitbox collision. How you can basically walk through someone when you try to melee them. I'm just saying it for what it is. When you try to melee someone but end up going through them, it's stupid.
I personally have no opinion on the matter on that one, and from what I hear, you're kind of alone on that one.
So. Well, I don't care if I'm alone. It's stupid. I don't understand how someone can be okay with this. It's ridiculous.
So our dear editor does not like the hitbox.
It's funny. I'm gonna say it for what it is. It is hilarious to go literally through someone's body by just meleeing
in a physics-based sandbox, but anyway.
You know.
In a physics-based sandbox.
Yes. Physics.
Physics
totally implies matter can go through matter.
What does this say about the physics that we know of? The computer has stumbled upon something. Anyways, though, again, talking about the case of progression, every time you log in, you have a list of tasks. Again, if you played any other multiplayer, they're kind of like your daily objectives, your challenges of the day.
Yeah.
Completing these will get you experience towards your season rank. Now, this doesn't sound that bad in practice, until you consider the fact that you only get 4 of these at a time, and that they stay until you complete those tasks. There are ways to recycle them with a purchasable item that I can't remember the name of, that basically swaps out the task with another one. But the only way you're going to get experience outside of just playing a match, because playing a match and just playing through a regular multiplayer match will get you a little bit of experience just in general.
Yeah.
This is the only real way of doing it. In fact, this kind of came up in the, what was it, not the Tanuki event. I can't remember what that event was for the samurai armor, what it was called. But this was kind of a point that was really brought up and brought to the fold or forefront when you talk about that event where when you grinded out the samurai armor, which again I cannot remember the name of.
Yeah.
Sorry, my memory is not the greatest. But anyways, in this event, you had to complete specific challenges to progress your reward tier to getting that armor. Here's the problem. These challenges were mixed in among your, again, regular daily challenges. So, the only way to progress the event was to grind through other challenges. And remember, you only get these challenges in a list of 4. You can only see 4 of them, well, 3 of them I think at a time. I can't remember if it was 4 or 3. But you only can see a few of them at a time. Now, there is a way to see one more of them if you buy the season pass, but that's a whole other different ball of wax. So you can only see at max either 4 or 5 at a time. I can't remember. If it's 3, then it goes up to 4 with the season pass. If it's 4, then it goes up to 5 with the season pass. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But the only way to do it is to grind out these regular challenges, and then eventually, if you're lucky, you'll get one of these specific event-only challenges that you can complete in order to progress your rewards for that specific limited time event. Which, if memory serves, the event was only like a week. So it was a bit of a pain. So progression is very difficult to do in terms of the season pass. So that's one of the things you'll see people complain about, because again, it's not this massive list of activities and challenges that you can complete that are like lists upon lists upon lists that you can just kind of pick and choose which ones you like. There's only 4 you get at a time, or like I said, 3, I can't remember. And the only way to basically progress this list is either complete them or buy a specific cash shop item, which allows you to swap out one with another random one, again, like pure random. So you really have no control over what you get. So that's kind of one of the reasons you'll see people complaining about the progression system.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to the other point. Let's talk about customization. And this is a whole other rabbit hole. Progression is pretty straightforward in terms of the complaints. Customization is a little more back and forth depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
Overall, people's opinions of this customization system are kind of that, while it is much more complex than, say, very early Halo games, comparatively to what other Halo games have had in the past, in some cases, it feels a lot more limited because of how you customize your character. For those who don't know, you have, when you click on an armor set, you can only customize, you can get certain cosmetics for specific armor sets. So you can't just do what you did in, I believe, Halo Reach, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, where you could just mix and match different armor sets with different armor types, or just kind of throw together different combinations.
Yeah, like, well, that's kind of any Halo game, actually, because when it comes to Halo Infinite, you can't mix and match the newest armors with, like, some of the Reach armors, which would have been something you could do, like, let's say, like in Halo 5. In Halo 5, you could mix and match, because I'm pretty sure the Reach armors are in Halo 5, and you could mix and match, like, maybe you could have a unicorn head with, like, maybe a Reach chest plate and Reach, like, shoulder pads, but, yeah. You can't really do that in this one. That is for sure.
Basically, the overall sum of it is that if you want to customize an armor set, you have to have the specific. Excuse me, I'm gonna burp there for a second. You have to have the specific customization options for that armor set unlocked. So you can't just mix and match at random. You have to have the basic armor set, and then you have to unlock stuff for that armor set, which does limit a lot of what you can do.
Yeah. Like, it kind of leaves Reach with Reach, Halo Infinite Armor with Halo Infinite Armor, and then the Yuri with the Yuri.
which is of course the special armor you can get for that event I mentioned previously.
Yeah.
So if you- I don't know.
Yeah, the special first event that happened so far.
Mhm. Speaking of reach armor, on a side point, you can only get the reach armor if you buy the season pass.
Yes.
And while there is stuff for the thing in the actual, battle pass, the armor itself, I believe, is locked behind buying the actual pass. You
Some
can't
of the
freaking do
armors
anything
can
with
be unlocked, but there's some that are not able to be.
it. Mhm.
You know.
So again, it's a lot more limiting with what you can do compared to things like Reach. So don't expect a full suite of customization options. In terms of what you can do, though, there are things such as customizing visors, where you can switch out the color of your visor. You can add and put in specific cosmetics related to your specific armor set. Like, for example, going back to that Yuri armor you mentioned before, I believe it's called.
Mm.
You can add in, if you unlock it, you can add in the samurai sword, which you have just hanging off the side of your Spartan, which, I mean, man, if there were executions in this game, that would have been a perfect execution.
Bro,
Just take the thing
I'll
out
be
and just
honest.
whack.
That's the one thing that I'm not happy about is they removed the executions, and that was like something that was awesome. Like,
I didn't even think about that,
yeah, executions were in Halo 4 and 5, and then just gone. And it's like, bruh, come on. It'd be awesome to just stomp on some guy's back and snap their neck.
Violently just.
It's like, you're dead. Goodbye.
I mean, considering how many like knives and swords you can unlock just sitting on the Yuri armor, it would be unfortunate. It's unfortunate you can't just like take out the samurai sword for an execution, just plunge that through
Yeah.
somebody's back.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, well, what you gonna do?
Made of like space steel so it doesn't break.
Pretty much.
'Cause, I mean, let's be honest.
Just slowly insert the sword into your chest. You are dead.
You are dead.
Goodbye.
Or just have your secondary knife that you carry, because I can't remember the official name of that thing. Sorry for anyone who's very interested, who's very aware of Japanese culture. I cannot remember what that small sword is called.
I can't
Small
remember.
knife dash sword. Sorry, I'm not perfect. But anyways, it'd be unfortunate you can't just take that and just slit a Spartan's throat with that thing. Just whoosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, technically, those kinds of assassinations was never even a thing. I mean, sure, there was
I know.
knife stabs in Halo Reach, but really, Halo Reach assassinations were like the most brutal that you'll get, and not really many of them are brutal. Some of them are, but not many. Very few are. That and the added ragdolls have always been beautiful. But I'm a TF2 player. Ragdolls are literally like the best thing. Like I'm gonna say it for what it is. Like those ragdolls that you get in like Half-Life and all that, they're the best. The best.
When you mentioned you're a TF2 player, somewhere in my brain an alarm went off.
Hey, I'm just saying, it is a nice thing when you go and apply so much pressure to a player's ragdoll that it will fly at 30,000 knots per second into the top of the skybox. That's saying something.
Yes. And
I mean,
how
you can do that in
farm
Halo.
ragdolls with the...
You can do that in Halo, and sometimes you get those, but it takes a lot more effort than it really should.
Right. And how you can farm ragdolls with Demo Man's... no, not Demo Man. Soldier's rocket launcher. But anyway.
Well, you can farm it with anything really, but it just comes down to it.
Anyway, so I could just feel an alarm going off somewhere in the distance. We have a TF2 player. Alert! Alert!
Alert! Peasant detected.
Peasant detected. The competitive PvP community. Oh God, it's a peasant. Someone call security. Anyways, but yeah. So customization-wise, specific visors for specific armor sets. You can customize specific helmets related to specific armor sets. You can add bits onto your gauntlets.
Mm-hmm.
You can add small cosmetics, like I believe for the Reach armor, you can add I think a knife. Am I mistaken? I might be mistaken though. But you can add stuff to the side of your leg, for your you know, kind of basic stuff. Sadly, you can add knives to your characters that don't get used, which kind of feels like a wasted opportunity again. But whatever. Why are you giving me a sword if I can't use it? Sorry, that's just a petty gripe of mine. But
Yeah, well,
anyways,
what you gonna do?
so again, the customization options aren't terrible per se. Not
No,
like
no, you
limiting
have
at all.
options.
Well, they are limiting.
No, that's the thing. Like, you definitely have options, and it's a nice thing to see 343 bringing back Reach Armor, because Reach Armor was very nice, and it had, like, a very nice, you know, feel to it. I don't know. It's probably just because I have a sentimental feel to the campaign, and the campaign was always a nice thing.
You and a lot of people, it seems.
Yeah. It's just Reach honestly was like the first Halo game that just really makes you feel like, holy my god, Spartan die. Death both meaningful and meaningless. Like,
ah yes, the true dichotomy of war. How your death is both meaningful and at the same time meaningless.
well, I mean, I'm just saying, your first Spartan buddy goes and dies to go and take on a ship, just to realize, oh yeah, 30 more of those ships show up. Oh, okay.
Now that was a waste.
Yeah, it's like, my boy is dead. Damn, what do I do now?
What do I do now? Run away.
Run. Yeah.
Run to the city. Anyways. Surely nothing bad can happen there. Oh,
That was... How? Sorry, it just... Some guy threw a sticky and it should have hit the floor underneath me, but somehow it attached to me. Somehow it locked onto my chest, going and moving an entire 2 feet up to it. It's like, alright, cool, thanks for doing that.
That's some lucky ass sticky throw. But
Yeah.
so yeah, customization isn't terrible, but it's not as complex as some of the marketing material might lead you to believe it is. In fact, it's
No.
fairly limiting compared to previous generations. It's not terrible, like I said, but you know, it feels much more limiting compared to what's been done in the past in
Yeah.
recent games. So, well, I don't know. Can you consider Reach one of the more recent games at this point? But still.
Yeah. I don't know
So
what's
those
going
are the
on
two.
here.
Side note, why we constantly talk over each other. Again, the disadvantage of not having a script is there's no you talk, I talk, you talk, I talk. We just kind of talk whenever we do, and
Yeah.
how it comes out is just how it does. Whatever. But anyways, so those are kind of the two main negative points, I suppose I could say, about the game. Is progression in terms of how the system is, in terms of how you overall get your quests, XP, stuff like that, as well as customization with it not feeling as in depth as you probably would want it to be, and arguably could have made it be. So those are your two negative points right there.
Yeah.
But what about the positive points? Well, again, to fill the concept of leaving a good taste in your mouth,
Hmm.
because honestly, there's a lot to love about this game.
There is. Infinite
If you like-
does some things right, and the things that it does right are very nice.
If you like the gunplay in single player, you'll like it in multiplayer. That's just the simplest
Well,
explanation for
you'll
it.
like it to a point. To an
You
extent.
and your hitbox detection.
Yeah, I must say it for what it is. Hitboxes need to be solid. If they're not solid, sometimes it just really messes with your head.
I'm gonna not have a point on that one. I'm just gonna leave that as is. Leave that point to just be in the air. But anyways,
Yes.
the maps, well, another thing actually I should say on the negative point side before we flip over entirely to the good point side
Oh.
is,
Don't mind me.
don't worry, it's more of a nit.
Lag
the
be like, my network is breaking.
I've heard that there are some bits of lag here and there, and I believe that Hidden Xperia, there I go again, screwing up his name, sorry man, it's not personal, is that, you know, there are not as many varied maps as there could have been, but then again, I played them during, when before the single player was out, so I don't know how many maps there are now. So take my opinion on the map amount, like the amount of maps there are, with a little bit of a grain of salt. I haven't seen what the current map listings are now that the game is fully out. After it basically was this: I played the multiplayer up until release, then I played the single player, and then I didn't play it anymore. So full disclosure on my part.
Don't mind me watching a man go and reset the ball. Like, man's just jumps off the cliff to reset the ball.
I will do it!
The desperate has begun. The
desperation has begun to show. But anyways, so, good points. Goodness gracious, we almost been going for an hour, I think.
No, half an hour, but yeah.
Half an hour only? Okay, wow, my internal clock is screwed up, but okay. So, good points about the game. Good points is that, again, the gunplay feels, at least as far as I'm seeing, and a lot of people can't speak in terms of our editor, it seems, but the gunplay feels very solid. Killing people feels very good. Never thought I could say that on international television. Well, not television. On the international internet. Not get arrested for it, but anyways. No, I'm just, the line is just, never thought I'd actually live to say that line. At least not in court, at least not out of court. But anyways. So, it feels very good to do the multiplayer. The overall feel of the multiplayer is very, shall we say, enjoyable.
Yeah.
Vehicles are something that you get every once in a while in some maps, especially in the larger maps where the 12v12, or I can't remember what it's called now, where you get your moments of, yay, I'm powerful, and now, back to work.
I'm not so powerful, but you know.
Which again, Bricky kind of mentions in his video. Well, actually, it's kind of pretty much what he said in his video, so. It's kind of hard to cover things that have been said 1,000 times without sounding similar. That's what I'm just getting at here. So, overall, the multiplayer feels very enjoyable. It's very
I don't
fun.
even know if they're nearing victory or not. Can you actually display if they're nearing victory or not? That'd be nice. Thanks, game. I'm just saying, it's not displaying the score, and I don't know why.
Okay, might throw that into the bad pile of potential glitches.
I don't know what's going on with my game. Even when I hit tab, I can't even see like players and scores and stuff. Like normally you do, and I don't know why.
I'm trying to talk about the good points here, and you just keep giving me bad points. It's not
Yeah,
helping.
well, I'm just saying, there's a few things that are being buggy, and I don't know what to do.
Okay, but again, it's really hard not to compliment the multiplayer without kind of going over everything you said in the single player.
Yeah.
The gunplay feels very fun to
Yeah, the
feels
gun
very fun.
sandbox has definitely got like a lot of fun stuff going on with it. So
Weapon dispersal of special weapons feels pretty consistent.
to an extent.
You're not in a single place in the map where it's like, here's where all the heavy ammo is. So
Yeah, but I mean, what I'll say, the
At least
difference
my opinion.
between heavy weapons in like Halo 3 to Reach and Infinite is the fact that all previous Halo games, even in Halo 4 and 5, heavy weapons were at least in multiple places. In Halo Infinite, heavy weapons are only in maybe one location on a small map or two locations on a large map.
true. There's
And
like this one spot. Or
you
two
kind of have
spots.
people camping that one spot. Like the nice thing about like a heavy weapon placement on like maybe Halo 3 is the fact that maybe someone's camping a rocket launcher spawn, but someone can easily go to a sniper rifle section and easily snipe them out. Like that's the nice thing about there being multiple power weapons, but in completely different locations. So, yeah.
So you might run into people camping out the rocket launcher spawn. Just be careful.
Yeah, well, I don't think that'll happen in Infinite. The most you'll get is people just camping the spawn for the heavy weapon and hoping they'll get a nice heavy weapon.
Now that you've said that, it'll start happening a lot. Just watch.
Oh, it already does.
I don't think it'll happen, then it does.
It already does. It always does. Every Halo game is the same when it comes to heavy weapons. If you're able to camp it, you will camp it. If you can't, because you're getting spammed out by grenades and stuff, you're probably not going to stay there very long. You're probably just going to memorize its spawn time, and then that's it.
Again, I can't help but kind of echo what Bricky said in his video, which again is linked in the description here, which is, and I kind of say that because there's really no way to mention it without almost comparing it to what he said, which is basically, this game feels very balanced in terms of its multiplayer.
Yeah,
you don't
it's
go
got
into
a lot
the
of
map
balance. Like,
you don't go into a
like that's the big thing about it, is the fact that by everything being set, like, oh, okay, well, that's nice, but by everything
balance
being
gets killed.
yeah, well, no, like, by everything being like set in a set point, no matter what, like, there's only ever going to be maybe 1 or 2 power weapons on a map at any given time. There's only ever going to be like X number of vehicles. There's only going to be X number of things. Like, making it so it's like that does go and make the game a fair bit more fair in certain aspects.
Right.
But it also changes up dynamic on how you're going to strategize, because, like I did say, if there's only so many places a power weapon's going to spawn, and there's only going to be ever 1 power weapon at a given time, sometimes you don't have another power weapon to go and help try to balance that out. Like I said, with like the whole sniper rifle versus a rocket launcher thing, it's like a rocket only travels so fast, while a sniper can quickly go and take out a guy for you.
Right.
So, it's a give and take with it. It's got some balance, and it's definitely doing it.
I mean, it's a lot better than something like Destiny, which we both play, where like,
it's
PvP
just
matches
everyone
are just...
has every weapon, 100 different perks for any given weapon, thousands and thousands of different combinations. Like, there's no real balance that you can do with that, no matter how much you try.
I mean, you'll have moments where you'll have 2 types of people in like Crucible, which is the PvP version for Destiny, or what it's called for PvP in Destiny. You'll have people who come in, who just come to enjoy and just kind of bring a random loadout. You'll find people who are new, want to try and get good at multiplayer, but they don't really know what load to go for. And then you'll have people who are, I guess I can't really say it in any other way, basically PvP extremes, who come in with loadouts specifically tailored to the Crucible, who have perks that are specifically tailored to the Crucible, armor stats are maxed out specifically
I am perfectly
for
optimized to kill you. I am darker than the shade of night. Or what is it? Like, deadlier than the XYZ. I'm harder to detect during the night. Like, I am perfectly optimized to eliminate you. Like,
basically, they'll walk in like the Terminator.
Yeah. It's like...
Yes. So you can tell kind of early on who's going to stop you just based on what they're running. Yeah. Whereas in Halo, the most difference you'll get in what people are running is just what they look like, which doesn't affect the gameplay at all. Which, kind of going back to my point about the sword, is almost a good thing that they didn't have the sword, because again, that means when you spawn in multiplayer, it's basically like this: you spawn in with a pistol, you spawn in with an auto rifle, go. Everyone spawns in after they get killed at the beginning of the match, at the end of the match. Whenever you spawn in again, after anything, you come in with a pistol and an auto rifle. So it's constantly resetting you back to a specific point where everyone else is. So it's not a question of who's running the best gun that's broken and that can kill like 100,000 RPM a minute.
Yeah, when it comes to a game like Halo, it's never about who has the best loadout. It's always been who has the best map knowledge. It's like, because any PvP game will always have who has the best PvP skills. Because a really good PvPer could easily go and take out a guy who has like a minigun and a rocket launcher, and just using like the default starting items. A good PvPer could probably go and figure out a way to go and take them out. But an even better PvPer is someone who goes and memorizes map placements, the different sections of the map that will have different spawns. Like, that's kind of how Halo works, is whoever has the best map knowledge has the better advantage overall.
Yeah, I when it's unlike, again, going back to kind of the Destiny reference. In Destiny, there'll be a lot of times where I come in, I'll die, and I'll be like, well, that guy killed me just because his gun is better.
Yeah,
I never find myself saying that when I was in the
get me at whatever range. Like, Yeah.
I mean, come on, Golden Gun can one-shot someone from across the map.
Yeah,
That is
well,
a,
keep in mind that is a
that
super.
is a hand cannon, not a sniper rifle.
Yeah, but that is a super.
I know, that's just the warlock in me getting its 2 cents in.
Like,
But anyways.
keep in mind, there's also Chaos Reach, which is basically a sniper but stronger. You just cover
True, but
a
it takes at
large-
least a few seconds. It does take at least a few seconds to kill with that thing.
Mm.
Plus, you do stay in one spot with the thing, so you're basically just.
Well, you kind of hover
sitting
around,
top.
but you are hovering in like one area.
Yeah,
You
one
only,
specific
you,
spot.
You only move.
Whereas a golden gun can just run around.
Yeah.
So, take that for what you will. But back to Halo.
Yes.
I never found myself dying in Halo being like, God damn it, his gun was much better than mine. He, it's, well, I mean, there are if he got a better, if he was able to get the better weapon, but that's just because he actually went out to get that weapon in the map. It's not because he was just running that gun to begin with. It's not that, it's like, crud, I don't go into a match immediately being able to pick out, okay, he'll probably kill me, he'll probably kill me, he'll probably kill me.
Mm-hmm.
I just get killed by whoever kills me, right? And I kill whoever I just managed to kill. There's no way you can immediately tell outside of maybe how many cosmetics they have, but that's just a question of how much time they've invested in the game. Of
Okay.
who probably will, who will probably burn you and who will probably not.
Man, alright, I'm gonna say it for what it is. I'm trying to not be mean to Infinite right now. I honestly love the game, but I tried.
Says the guy's giving many bad points.
No, I've been trying to go and get into a multiplayer match, and it keeps saying it can't connect. So I'm like, alright, fine, I'll go to the campaign. Goes to campaign, loads it up, crashes. Bro, please stop this. You're a good
Viewer
game.
discretion is a
You're
discretion
a good
is advised.
game. Don't do this to me.
Viewer discretion is advised. Way back when we were first doing multiplayer before the single player came out, him and I, he was also having trouble getting it to run. So
Well, no, that's the thing. I think it might be because I'm both streaming and on Discord, so it's probably not helping. But still, like, campaign. Really? I loaded up the campaign 1,000 times while watching a video, while going and talking in a voice chat, and you tell me now you're gonna crash. You son of a bitch. There we go. We're good. Alright.
there we go.
Let's enjoy a little bit of gameplay while we go and continue to talk about another aspect, shall we?
Indeed. It, again, all in all, the multiplayer is very fun to play. If you enjoy the single player, you'll enjoy the multiplayer. In fact, it can be a little bit tiring to kill the grunt for the 100th time, in my personal opinion. So it is a little fun to see just, who will try and outmaneuver you. And again, going back to that point about balance, it also goes to the point of abilities. Everyone spawns in, I believe, with no abilities outside of maybe punch. But that's
No,
just
I
kind of
think
intrinsic.
depending on the game mode, you do spawn in, like, the first spawn, you spawn in with, like, some abilities, but once when you respawn again, you don't.
Yeah.
So it's like, at the very beginning, everyone kind of has, like, a random ability. They might have the grapple shot, they might have the wall. It's just random, but, yeah, after that, it's just default all the way.
Which is kind of what makes it fun to play that one game mode that I can't remember the name of, where you
Fiesta.
just kind of spawn in every time you respawn with just a random set of abilities and weapons. So it does kind of play with that idea of balance, and it just kind of purposely unbalances it just for the sake of enjoyment, because one time you could spawn in with a rocket launcher and a gun that can insta-clap somebody, and then you get clapped by somebody from across the map with a sniper rifle, and then you spawn in with like 2 pistols, and it's like, well, this sucks.
Yep.
You went from being very dangerous to very, very, very not dangerous. So it's kind of like, yay, I'm powerful. Yay, I'm in trouble.
I'm in danger. Well, it's a give and take with it. Like, it is definitely a fun game mode to play, because any game that allows you to go and kind of just randomly spawn with any assortment of weapons can create some interesting combinations sometimes. Like, going and making a loadout that's primarily designed on melee and you have absolutely no range versus someone who has like both really good ranged weaponry. It's like, oh,
Right.
time for fun.
I mean, the one point people do say about the multiplayer outside of customization and progression is that the way it's structured, you can't choose your individual game mode unless you're doing a private match. This is the one other gripe I hear people saying, and I should have probably mentioned this sooner, but I completely forgot about it. Again, the disadvantage
Well,
is not having a
you can
script,
kind of
but-
select a bit of a game mode now. You can
Oh?
select big team battle. You can select you can't select like I want to play capture the flag or I want to play oddball.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
well, actually no, you can't select Slayer. Slayer's literally the only playlist you can actually select. But if you want to play like something like oddball or capture the flag, you kind of have to just hope for the best that you get the one you
Yeah.
want. Because you can select like big team battle, but if you want big team battle but capture the flag, well, chances are you might get the one that I had earlier, which was capture zones. It's like it's fun. You still get the big team battle, and still get to have your fun, but you might not, get exactly what you wanted.
If you're in the menu right now, could you pull up, if you are, that is again,
Yeah, what would you want?
could you pull up that skill thing? Or the challenge list, just so I can kind of give an example of what I was talking about earlier with the challenge list.
Yeah, sure. Let me just jump out of campaign, because, I mean, it's just campaign. It's not a multiplayer game, so I'm not going and dipping on anyone. And...
What did we just say about not playing the campaign?
Hey, I am playing campaign that is already finished. I'm just running around killing things.
Oh, all right, fine.
Besides, I'm just gonna run around only one area. Alright, let's see here. How do I find the challenges? I am a fool. El problemo. Recent. How do I find it?
I believe it is. I have to remember myself.
It's like I think it's under community, but I don't see anything under community. There's nothing under customization. Player. Is it under no. No.
I can't remember, honestly. I can't remember. I have to look it up.
Alright,
How
let's see.
embarrassing
My
is
profile. View. No.
Technical difficulties on stream, children.
I'm just saying, bro, I don't like how this is organized. The menu's a little counterintuitive half the times, and it makes me feel.
Yeah.
It makes me
That
feel
could be
weird.
one. That could be one issue with the multiplayer. The menus are a little.
Well, it's not even the multiplayer; it's just the game in general.
Speaking of menus, though, while he's finding
there's
that,
so many
let's go
different
back-
sections, and they're not just organized nicely.
Speaking of menus, we'll go back to that thing about what I was mentioning earlier about the multiplayer and how you can't really select. You can do two different selections in multiplayer. You can do quick play, which is basically just going to throw you in a random mode with random people. You don't really get the chance to figure out what you're playing until you're playing it, and with who you're playing until you're playing it. But that's the second part's kind of par for the course with any multiplayer, so eh. And you can also do massive team battle, which is kind of the same thing as quick play. It's just with a much larger map with 12v12, I believe, or 6v6. I can't remember.
Okay, I think I found the challenges. Yeah. So I've got a daily challenge today. It's play any match, spoilers of Sparta, and then I've got a weekly which resets every 5 days. Or
How many
maybe
weeklies are there?
there are three. Technically
Okay.
4 if you get the premium battle pass.
Okay, going back to my previous point. Thank you. Now we know there are 3 you can only see at a time, and 4 if you get the battle pass. So, it does kind of limit what you can see. Yeah. Plus, that daily one is basically that one that you basically get every time you play a match. So it's kind of a cheesy way. It's not really a daily one because that kind of triggers every time you play a match. So it's kind of it's weird. It is a daily, and it's technically not a daily. That's the achievement you just get.
What?
Just
So
get
what?
Every
It's
time
just
you finish a match.
Every single match, it just resets.
Every time
basically.
you play a match, basically, which is kind of dumb. I kind of figured that out actually by pure coincidence while I was running through and kind of figuring out some of the menu schemes.
Oh.
So it is kind of dumb that it's
what
like
are you
it's
gonna
the
do?
daily challenge, but technically it's not. It's just the point you get for finishing
Just
a match.
repeatable challenge then.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, and just something you do no matter what, win or lose.
Mm-hmm.
Eh.
So there is that. Again, it's you can either choose quick play, which again throws you into a random
You
type match.
yeah, I believe there's two Slayer options. There's a tactical Slayer, which I believe instead of being spawned in with an assault rifle and
Pistol,
yeah, I think you
but
just
essentially a
well,
pistol.
I'm trying to think. I think you might get spawned in with the BR or the Commando. I'm not too sure. I mean, it's the thing with Infinite. Both the BR and the Commando kind of act the same in some respects, but the Commando can go full auto. So it's a little weird. I'll be honest, the Commando is like that one weapon that is, I don't know how to feel about it because you can kind of act like a BR with it, but at the same time, it's not a BR. It's weird.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Alright.
So, long story short, though, again, there are a few things you could grab about the multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
Single player wise, it's a great addition to the Halo franchise.
It's nice. It is very good.
If not,
the
maps are a little. Story is decent.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna win any awards, in my honest opinion, but you know, it is certainly a good addition, and I would say probably better than maybe Guardians.
Yeah. Yeah, the Guardians kind of just feels weird how you get thrown with like a whole bunch of Spartans. Like even Blue Team just kind of shows up out of the blue, and it's like, sure, Blue Team is a bunch of characters from the books and stuff, but that still doesn't explain why all of a sudden now they're working with Chief after how many years of Chief going and working alone. I mean, originally he did have a team and he worked with a team, but it just feels really weird and forced. Like the whole story just feels very forced. That it's like, yes, all of this is happening now. What do you mean? Why is it all happening like this? Because it's happening now.
Mantle of Responsibility, Cortana, Evil, Rebellion, ta-da.
Yes.
It is kind of a... I personally didn't mind having other Spartans with me.
Well, no, that's the thing. I don't mind there being like brand new Spartans. Like Reach basically does the same thing, where it's like you're introduced to all these random Spartans and you don't even know them. Minus the whole fact that like you kind of get a whole story thing with them for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they all die. Just ignore that part for a second.
Ignore the part
they don't
where they
need.
all die.
Well, no, that's the thing. They don't need to die, but it to me, it feels forced that you don't really get introduced to these characters, minus like a little bit of bantering between them, and you don't really get any real. I don't know. It doesn't feel genuine. It just feels like it's been forced. That the player is now experiencing like multiple characters like being together and working as a team, and we need to save the day. It's just
my biggest gripe about Guardians is kind of a retrospective kind of complaint where when you look at the trailers compared to what actually the game turned out to be, it was more this idea of Chief going up against Oni and stuff like that, and there's this whole thing.
Yeah,
where in reality it turned out to be a completely different thing where he's going after Cortana, which
yeah,
really?
I mean, I can understand the misdirection, but you don't make literal like commercials where you have Chief going and shooting Locke basically, and then Locke shooting Chief, and not make everyone think there's going to be a moment where like they fight and one of them might get seriously injured at the most. But no, Locke literally just kind of gets put into a stasis field. Chief's helmet gets cracked, despite the fact that, you know, Chief's meant to be basically a man walking with a whole bunch of metal in his body. You know, meant to completely crack a man in half, but you know, let's ignore that part there for a second.
I mean, it's just this idea that they're setting up it felt like they were setting up the concept of Oni being the next big villain, which could work considering, if you look into the lore how Oni is.
Yeah, no, technically they already are. They've always kind of been a villain because they don't really have humanity's best interest in heart.
They're just
kind of have their own. But,
yeah, it's basically like, you're all puppets for us.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels like that I think in a way I kind of understand why they do that, because in a way it feels like if you made Oni the next big villain, that feel like something you'd use to end off the Halo series. Like, what after that would happen? Like,
Well,
it's kind of like, okay,
there's
Oni's done,
still
now
the
what?
whole flood thing, and now with the
Flood
whole
kind of comes and goes, and we're
Yeah.
kind of, and I mean,
But I
in
mean,
the-
now with the whole dynamic of another new race that we get at the end of the campaign, well, no, technically during the campaign, we get hinted by them, but now that like we have that dynamic going on,
yeah, it's
there's,
kind of
there's
like
a
that
little
idea of like,
bit else going on here, that's for sure.
I mean, in a way, Infinite does kind of well, I don't want to say downplays the Flood.
No.
In fact, is that even a spoiler? Should I even say that?
No, I mean the Flood are kind of treated almost the same as they are in 4 and 5. The only difference now is that the Flood actually do get mentioned, and you are reminded that they are a threat. But that's basically
Yes.
it. You don't get any real like, yes, the Flood are here. I mean, technically the Flood actually are on the ring. They're in stasis chambers.
Yeah, they're on the ring.
as they
like
do
every other ring.
apparently, as the Forerunners always do. But you know.
Because that was a brilliant plan. But
Yes,
that never backfired at all. No, no, no.
Let's put them on every single one of our installations, even the most minor of installations that really don't need the Flood there. But, you know, every installation will be a Flood research installation on top of its original purpose. It's like, okay.
But again, I don't know if I should mention it, because is it kind of a spoiler?
What?
The moment with Cortana and...
Yeah, no, it's a spoiler.
Okay, I won't say anything.
Yeah,
but
no,
anyways,
that's at the end. That's at like the further into the game you go, the more spoiler you are getting. So yes.
yeah, it's kind of midway.
We'll give it another couple months.
Yeah, before we talk about anything like that. But
Yeah.
long story short, the concept is there's a new race, and the Flood are kind of downplayed to be.
And you do get introduced to the whole endless around the beginning of the game, so this is
Yeah.
fun. Like there's this new race going on, the endless. There's some really weird stuff going on about them. We don't really know much. All we know is that they are very dangerous, more dangerous than the Flood. Apparently.
Yeah, like there's literally a point where she's like, "Oh, Flood? Really? That's not what I'm here for. Something much worse than the Flood." Okay.
Still, I'm gonna make the point for what it is. I don't know what can be more dangerous than the Flood, because for all we know, technically the Endless could be infected by the Flood. We really don't know anything.
We don't even know what the hell they are.
We don't know what they are, other than the Forerunners disliked them for very specific.
For very specific reasons we won't get into.
Yeah, very specific reason we won't get into, but yeah, that's the thing though. For all we know, the Flood could infect the Endless. It's just they can't.
We don't even know
probably
what the
because
hell
of
the
their
Endless are.
technological or biological superiority in some aspect.
Yeah.
But
TLDR, the Endless and the Forerunners, Endless did not like Forerunners did not like the Endless, and here we are.
Here we are.
But it's again, it's it is what it is. But again, it is a nice successor to the series.
Yeah,
it
no,
feels like
it's definitely pushing. It's definitely feeling like it's trying to push the story in like a more direct direction instead of like making it feel like the story is going in multiple directions all at once, and it's just what the hell is going on? My head hurts. I don't know what's story and what's not.
I mean, like I said, if they were to bring in Oni as a villain, that feels like something they'd use to end off the series of Halo. Because, I mean, think about it. Okay, they had the Covenant.
I mean, maybe
the Covenant was defeated.
But here's the thing: technically, Oni's already in an extreme amount of heat right now.
Technically, but that's in the deep lore. You don't really see that in the games.
You don't see that in the games. But I mean, that's the thing, though. It's like, what would you really do with the games putting Oni? It's like, sure, you could probably go and try to put like a Spartan who's completely loyal towards Oni and all that, but sure,
I mean,
Spartan versus Spartan, that'd be interesting, but technically we already got that, though a very mild version of it, but
yeah, very mild. Again, it is that concept of like, it would be that, okay, like, let's look it over here. So 1 through 3, and technically Reach, because that's a prequel, the Covenant were the big bad. That was the thing that was supposed to be the be-all end-all of humanity. That gets defeated at the end of 3, which is technically the end of Bungie's timeline, so that makes sense. That was supposed to be where Halo ended. Then 343 picked it up and then rebooted the whole series, so let's pretend that those are 2 different realities for the sake of discussion. Then we have a new enemy getting introduced to breathe new life into the series.
Yeah.
This in the form of kind of Covenant splinter factions, and the idea of bringing back the Forerunners into the fold.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
eventually
kind of.
those splinter...
Kind
well,
of.
kind of.
I mean,
they get brought into...
The Forerunners in Infinite kind of get brought back in, like, dialogue and story, but not actual. Like,
well, they kind of already have at this point. Their technology is now running around. To some extent.
Well, yeah, if you're talking about Halo 4 and subsequently, yes, 5, but technically they're the creation of the Forerunners, which kind of starts becoming its own faction at times, especially when you look into different parts of the lore, but that's just a can of worms that you don't want to open when it comes to the creation of the Forerunners, those AI and all that.
You kind of get... They kind of temporarily bring the Forerunners back into the... they brought them back into the overall. They brought these kind of Covenant splinter factions in as... So you can kind of see them playing with the idea of having a Covenant splinter faction, and this is me just more analyzing the story beats in general, for those who are curious. Of kind of like them playing with the idea of, hey, let's bring an enemy faction... Let's make a new enemy faction and call it a Covenant splinter faction. But then those splinter factions get defeated, and then you have Halo Wars 2, which introduced the Banished, which is a very clever way of playing with that idea of a splinter faction, but not really. This idea of a splinter faction that, instead of trying to bring back the government...
the
government.
The government.
Oh, yes. The government. Bring back the government. Make the government great again. But anyways. Instead of trying to bring back the Covenant, you see them as someone who broke off from the Covenant altogether and doesn't even share any of their beliefs whatsoever. They just so happen to have been a part of them at some point.
Though I will say, when you go through some of the gameplay in Infinite and the campaign, it kind of feels like some of the Banished feel like fulfilling some of the Covenant's goals, but just not that many. So
not the Great Journey at the very least.
Well, some of them, yes. Though they don't call it the Great Journey, they actually treat it like a weapon, not realizing what its actual capabilities are.
Well, I mean, for example,
from,
Aatrox himself.
Our wonderful little grunt friend who goes and throws a mic at us, basically. Grunts are grunts, but still.
But I mean, look at Aatrox, for example, the leader of the Banished, who again, there's this whole subplot involving him, but I won't get into. But Aatrox, for example, didn't even believe in the Great Journey.
No.
Is
Aatrox is like the purest of like, no, screw your Great Journey. You're all lying to us.
It's all a lie.
You've deceived us. This is all but a ruse to go and get us all killed.
Yeah. So you kind of see that idea of them playing with a splinter faction that's not really part of the Covenant, but kind of is an offshoot of the Covenant that is quote-unquote even more dangerous than the Covenant.
Yeah.
And so now you see them also trying to introduce, kind of going back to that kind of Forerunner well, of being like, okay, we introduced the Forerunners, but we can't really try to find a way to introduce them without making them the villains, which doesn't really play with the story all too well. What if we introduced a whole new faction, which is kind of where you see the Endless come in, of a faction that maybe not oppose the Forerunners per se, but isn't exactly on their terms.
Technically, we don't know if the Endless are going to go against us or not. All we
even
know
they are.
is that the Forerunners treated them as being dangerous, but we don't really exactly know why.
Yeah. They considered them a
not really a threat. They just
we know why they considered them a threat, but I won't say it.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. It basically goes to the Forerunners being their typical egotistical.
Well, I mean,
no matter what, that's a given with the Forerunners. They've kind of been
They are egotistical in a way. You can kind of see the 343 playing off the idea that the Forerunners are actually quite egotistical.
Yeah.
Which is different from Bungie's vision of them being
basically,
wise.
it just connects to that again. The Forerunners being egotistical as always.
Which, again, what is it with, like, ancient civilizations and being so freaking full of themselves?
Because they think they're the superior beings. It's just a
I
given.
mean, you see the Isu in Assassin's Creed. You see the Forerunner. You see the Orokin in Warframe. You see the frickin' Forerunners in Halo. What is it with precursor ancient civilizations of advanced technology believing themselves to be gods and
Yeah, well, yeah.
very, very full of themselves? Like, sheesh, that seems like a trope at this point.
Yeah, well, it's still a funny
What?
trope to watch. You just get to watch their downfall. Watch them suffer.
And then they go, "Why did we lose? Why did we lose? Why did we lose?"
Why did
Ignoring
we
the
fall
thousands of
apart?
reasons.
I wonder why.
I wonder why.
Oh, I
Shall I go
truly wonder
alphabetically
why.
or alphabetically or chronologically? Again, it's an interesting concept. Let's see where the story goes. I'm kind of interested to see where they take the endless, kind of playing with the idea of, you know, a race more dangerous than the Flood, which is, again, very interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It will be interesting to see what they do with it, because obviously the Forerunners wouldn't lock them up if there wasn't some kind of connection to them in the Flood, and there kind of seems
well,
to
I
be.
don't know. I think they would regardless. I think they're
Yeah.
too full of themselves to do it regardless.
Yeah. But still. It might be interesting. I really do hope 343 does go and, like, I honestly want them to go and bring the Flood back and do something with them, because
I'm
like
sure they
the
will in
Flood have
some small
always been a big threat, and when you think about it, it's like they're meant to be the big bads that can just turn your friends against you and take over the entire galaxy if you leave them alone long enough. So
I mean, it feels like
something's
they're
got to
almost...
happen with them, because technically
I mean, I'll be
the
honest.
Halo ring from Halo 2 is still infested with a whole bunch of them, so
I mean, I'll be honest with you. They brought them back in Halo Wars, but that feels like they're just trying to bring them back into the fold for potential story bits later. But with the way
yeah.
they're playing the story, it honestly feels like they're trying to distance themselves from the Flood. Yes, they exist, but they're also
Yeah.
saying that yes, they exist, but they're not the worst things out there, contrary to popular belief. Which is on a story beat a good and a bad thing, because on one hand you got people being like, okay, what makes them so worse than the Flood, and then you got old players like our editor here being like, but the Flood.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's like you can't create this biological disease that could go and literally wipe out the entire galaxy, and you go and have like the might of the strongest like species doing everything in its power, even creating beings that are meant to be resistant to the Flood, and still failing. It's like you can't make that and not, treat it like
Well,
it's
I mean-
still a big threat.
I mean, in fairness, the whole reason that project failed was because number one, internal strife, and number two, they just didn't have enough time to finish it.
Yeah.
I feel like that if they went with that plan early in the war, they might have actually worked.
Well, I feel like if they actually had listened to the humans sooner, but,
Again, that goes back into the Forerunners being a bunch of egotistical assholes. But anyways.
what you gonna do about it?
So again, it does kind of give you a big shoes to fill of the concept of, okay, if they're worse, how worse? Why are they worse? What?
Yeah,
And
what
in fairness,
exactly
I will-
makes them worse?
I will say this. How they introduce the Endless is quite clever.
Yeah, it is.
And the concept of, like, introducing a new enemy race is difficult because, there are a few questions you have to ask, both continuity-wise and story-wise. Number one, why haven't we heard of them sooner? Number two, why are they only just getting introduced now? Because, again, if they're in the backdrop somewhere, then you can bring them forward and being like, well, they were always there, we just never heard of them. Or you can be like, well...
I mean,
again,
technically,
can't
we never
say
really
how
would
they did it.
hear of them because... Okay,
How they do it is quite clever.
Yeah, I'm gonna just say this because this does tie into the whole, well, why did we never see them before? Because they've been connected to this Halo ring in Infinite the whole time. They've been connected to Zeta the whole time. So that's kind of the reason why we haven't found them, because it's only until you go to Zeta that you'll understand.
Watch. Again, how they do it is quite clever. And they do it in a way that is like, yeah, no, I can see then why we wouldn't have heard of them until now.
Yeah. They do it right. They definitely do it right.
Yeah. Maybe later we'll touch on why exactly that is, but regardless.
Another few months.
So.
Another few months.
Funny enough, actually, I don't know if I said this earlier in the video or not. I can't remember. But like I said, I know we were talking about this before the stream, him and I. We have this. I found this concept of CB Project Red coming out about the features of Cyberpunk and why they're not as feature heavy as they promise and stuff like that, and how it's not exactly the best response in the world to give. Unfortunately, like I said, well, not unfortunately, but I'd promised we'd do Halo Infinite this week, so
Get that moving.
have to be a man of my word if I have to.
I have to finish what I started to finish the fight.
I mean, I did say I would, and here we are. I did promise you guys that we would do a Halo Infinite video eventually, and here we are, doing a Halo Infinite.
They're getting the story and the multiplayer going.
Yep. So there you have it. That about wraps up my thoughts. Any ending thoughts, dear editor?
Yeah, pretty much just the basic thing. Like, what I'll say this is, we can't, like, I can understand the anger, and I have anger towards 343 for some things that they're doing, but I'm gonna try to keep my anger for what it is. Like, sure, I'm unhappy with this, but I'm not gonna just say 343 is bad because of it. 343 is at least doing what they can.
Bad.
No, like I'm just saying this for what it is. It's like we can't just go and like completely hate on them and then try to boycott the company and all that. Like, they are at least trying to do what they can to make the game nice and fun. And frankly, for what it is, they did make the game fun. Like, it is very much enjoyable. Like, that is one thing that is true to the end. Is Infinite has a very good campaign in multiplayer. Its sandbox is honestly enjoyable no matter what you're doing. Like, you can just kind of be messing around like I am in the campaign at the moment, and you can still have fun. Like, there's not much that stops you from just kind of going around and having enjoyment with whatever you want to do. So,
I mean, yeah.
Just
I will kind of
make sure if you're putting your anger, put it towards something that's positive, because positive change is always better than
Positive
negative
feedback.
change.
Positive feedback.
Yeah.
Don't send death threats. Nobody likes it.
Don't do that. Like,
Not that I
like
hear you
I
guys
said,
are,
like, when it comes to 343 and the shop and the store and the microtransactions, it's like, I for one am not 100% happy with it, but for one thing that is certain, 343 does need to make some money out of it. Like, they made it free to play, so it's obviously going to have microtransactions in it, be it cosmetics or new things to do overall as the game goes on with seasons. But you shouldn't, put your anger towards, let's just completely ruin the company entirely. Like, I'm not happy with it, but we shouldn't, the game's trash because of this one reason, even though it's a very minor nitpick in the end of the day. It's just, not happy to see money be thrown into the dumpster sometimes.
Long story short, I think is the best way to summarize it all, to kind of lead on to your point, is that there are good ways to restart series and there are bad ways to restart series. A bad way to restart a series, to throw some shade over at Lucasfilms, or Disney, let's be honest, is Star Wars. That's a bad way to restart a series, and anybody who knows the Star Wars genre knows exactly what I'm talking about. But
that's the point with that real quick, is you can try to restart a series by either A, going and completely retconning everything, or B, acknowledging the past of the series and trying to restart it that way by still acknowledging it. Halo acknowledges its past and its recent past, and it's doing it well.
Yeah. It does acknowledge that it's fumbled some places, but it is using old plot points to make new plot points to work with the universe. So it's still working with the universe. You still have
Agent Locke from 5 still kind of being within the universe and doing stuff. So it's not completely.
You find audio recordings of him.
Yeah,
that's not a spoiler because those are random collectibles.
Yeah, that, and grunt friend goes and talks about, you know, him.
We'll call him George. George the Grunt. Actually,
We'll
no.
call him
He's a brute.
Jorge.
Yeah, no, that's the one. We'll call him Jorge. Jorge the Grunt. There, you've been named. You've been
Yes.
christened Jorge. Called it. This channel has officially christened the Grunt Jorge.
We've christened the communications grunt. His name is now Jorge. Every time he goes and tries to mock the UNSC, every time they go and pick up a fob, every time he goes and says Chief is dead despite him standing right beside the tower, every little thing, his name is forever Jorge.
Yeah, just remember Jorge. Jorge will not be forgotten. Him and George the Brute.
Wait, did you say George the Brute?
Yeah, I think it wasn't his name George.
Grug. His name is Grug.
Oh, Grug, my bad.
Yes.
Grug the Brute.
Yes, which side note,
Grug the Brute.
they 343 actually goes and mentions Grug the Brute with
Literally.
the communications grunt going and saying,
Jorge acknowledges
what's
the
all this? What's all this talk about Grug? Grug's cool, but we're cool. We're cool too.
Jorge feeling insignificant right there. But there you go. Again, there are good ways to reboot a series, and there are bad ways to reboot a series.
No matter
this is
what,
a good way of rebooting a series.
no matter what, when you're rebooting a series, you should always acknowledge the past and at least respect it. Because it's because of the past of a series that made the series go to the point that
What
it
it
is. May it be Halo, Fallout, Mass Effect, Star Wars, it doesn't matter. It's the past of a series that brought it to its current point.
Yeah.
And to throw that away kind of just goes and kind of spits in the face of everything that brought it to where it is now.
Honestly.
So
There are ways. It's not, again, that's not saying you can't make new plot points.
No,
Again, we see
it's-
in Halo
it's
Infinite
always-
that they're trying to make new plot points.
yeah,
with
it's
the end
always
of it,
fine
but-
to make new plot points. Just, you know, make sure those plot points don't go and fly directly in the face of old plot
Of
points
everything that
without
came
good
before.
reason.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a good reason where it's like you're retconning something, but because of like X reason made it completely insignificant because of this very good reason that it's like, no, story purpose, like, then that's
Yeah.
understandable. That's understandable.
Yeah.
It's
So
like,
there you go.
The Halo rings were insignificant the whole time. He could have just went to like this weird magical portal on the other side of the Milky Way. Like, all right.
Do a magic dance and suddenly the flood disappears.
like, it's understandable because the Forerunners never knew about it until we did. Like, all right, that's understandable. Like,
Please don't give them ideas.
well, no, I doubt they'll do something like that. Like, the whole purpose of that portal was literally just, oh yeah, no, we're literally running away. The Milky Way is dead. The Flood can have it. The Endless, whatever they're doing, can have it. We don't care. We're out.
Yeah, we don't
Goodbye.
care. We're done. You'll find us in Andromeda. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
But again, don't you know? Again, it's okay to make new plot points. Just remember where you came from. That's kind of the takeaway from this. So
Yeah.
I guess that's our 2 cents in the matter.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And good night.
Wow. Good night, and
I'm getting away from that.
okay, well then, fine.
I'm trying to make a new I'm trying to make a new outro. Not
Okay.
not to make light of that man, but
Okay.
I'm trying to make something more original.
Okay, well, hopefully you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for the next one. This has been the Midweek Report.